guys, this is Naomi van Dooren. I'm Kristine van Dooren's daughter, and tonight we're recording our first episode called Conversations with Kristine van Dooren because we want to get to know you more, Mom. And for all of the listeners that might not have listened to your whole podcast yet, maybe I thought you could start with just a kind of overview of your life story that we listen to in your podcast, and then we'll get to the personal questions.
Yay. Okay. Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I spent a lot of time working on the introduction for the story so that it would really be the foundation for everything I'm going to be saying and talking about.
Cool.
And so this is what I wrote, and you can find it on my episodes called Introduction. So I wrote, finding purpose in life is what we all long for. It doesn't matter how old you are or where you live or how many roads in this. Now I'm going to cry.
It is touching, but it is personal. And to me, it's really special that you're sharing this with us while you're still here. And for the nieces and nephews and all the people out there that are listening to this story and that can draw from your story. And so you can do this, Mom. Keep going.
Yeah. So what I wrote is, it doesn't matter what you've gone through in life, how many roads you've traveled, happiness and contentment and purpose is what we all hope to find one day. So then I said, I'm from California, but I've lived most of my life in Germany. And I would like to tell you my story, which I wrote and was published in German. Here it is. My book in German, Das Lied meines Lebens.
And I translated it.
Yes, my translator, and you helped me write it, I think, called in English, The Song of My Life. And my story is that in 1970, I traveled to Europe, ending up in West Berlin. And there I met my future husband, Thomas van Dooren. I was the California girl, and he was the Berliner musician boy. We were 18 and 19.
Incredible.
It was a summer of love. The call of the hippie movement was conquering the world. The message of the music was all about the search for purpose and a community with shared beliefs. Together, we decided to head out back to California, where the center of the happening was. Our lives, though, took an unexpected turn when we found ourselves at a ranch in the middle of nowhere, literally, in the redwood forest. Yeah. And it was called Living Waters. So I wanted to tell you my story about we found what we were looking for at Living Waters.
Right. And by the way, Thomas van Dooren, the guy that you just mentioned, is my dad. Yeah. And this is also super touching for me to be hearing your story. And I'm so thankful that you're opening up and that we can share this with the listeners. I wonder who you are at home listening. We care about you. We pray for you. And we hope you have fun getting to know Kristine van Dooren more. And I'm going to start asking you some questions, Mom.
Okay. First, greetings. My favorite cup from the UK.
Aww. We love to drink and we love to have special cups. I know you have all kinds of different pretty cups in your house, and so do I. This cup, by the way, I bought in the Redwoods when I finally, a few years ago, got to go travel there again with my kids and kind of get a vibe of somewhere around there where I was born. We'll hear about, you'll hear about that in the podcast.
Yeah.
By the way, on a side note, you have to listen to the podcast if you haven't yet. It's so exciting, and start with episode 1. Okay, so Mom, one of the first questions I have is, what even led you to decide to make this podcast? I mean, it's not like you were just sitting at home one day. And I know you're a type of person that likes to you're not like always looking for attention and everything. And I think this is a really big and huge step for you. And how did it come about?
Well, I told you about my German book that came out a long time ago. And over the years, so many people that I know, of course, in the States or in the UK have said, oh, we would love to read your story in English. Right. And so last year, about a year ago, I started working on, I have all the files. My book was originally written in English before you translated it.
Yeah.
And so I started going through it all and thinking, oh, not having any idea of how I could bring out a book in English. And then you suggested to me, why don't I record it on my cell phone and just kind of get a feel for it again, because I wrote it a long time ago. And then your daughter and my other teenage daughter, a granddaughter, were both listening to these audios of me reading in English. And so it was your daughter. Last year, she was 21. And she was sitting here at my table and I was talking about my book in English. And she said, why don't you just do a podcast? That's way easier. And I'm like, what's a podcast? I mean, I watch a lot of interviews on YouTube, but I hadn't been listening to, Spotify or whatever. And so I said, okay, how do you do that? And then Debbie, who lives near to me, she has a friend that does podcasts, and she says,
Debbie
why don't
being
you,
my youngest sister.
the
I'm the
youngest one?
oldest and your youngest daughter.
Yeah, Debbie. And she's a singer and she has a studio. And she said, but why don't you talk to my friend who does podcasts? So, and she's American. So we had this long personal video talk, and she's like, you're prepared if you've got this whole story and
Yeah.
it looks like you've got a lot of experience in your life doing things, public or whatever, social media, and just go for it. She said, why don't you start with ordering yourself a podcast microphone?
Yay.
So I ordered the microphone, like I have no idea how to use it. I have an old laptop, etc. And then Debbie said, well, I would like to help you. We can record at my place. And then her husband set me up with my own laptop and, to get started on this whole thing. And so that's kind of set me on the road of, okay, I'm going to do this. I've never been worked with a microphone before. To me, a microphone is like really scary. And so I looked at a lot of things also on YouTube, and my daughter, Debbie, who is a vocal coach like you. And, she gave me a lot of tips to how to speak. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do this.
Which is kind of a nice side note also for our listeners. No matter what age or what phase of life you're in, there's always an adventure around the bend if you want to go for it. And to me, I also feel like the podcast couldn't be as amazing and as rich as it is if you would have done it sooner. So there's always like the right time for something.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah. Okay, so if you've got a gift at home and you've got some vision for your life and something you would want to do, maybe you should just go for it now. Just like what Mom did.
Yeah. I mean, you can always find people to help you.
Exactly. Yeah. So then let's get to the next question. How did you prepare? Because, you've told us a little bit about that you already had a lot of stuff to draw from, but how did you really get into the details of like making these episodes? I don't know, how many episodes do we have by now?
37.
37 episodes. I think I haven't listened to the last 2 yet.
One a week
Yeah.
on Wednesday.
Yeah,
Comes out.
which I think is incredible. I mean, that's a high goal. I remember when you told me you wanted to do one every week, I was like, really? But you did it. Okay, so how did you prepare?
Well, this also, it helped in talking to this young woman.
Mm.
She said you need to have your message, your theme clear. You need to have kind of a catchy title.
How did you come up with the title?
Well, I think it's always been an underlining theme in my life and your dad Thomas's life ever since we became Christians. Well, even before that, in our hippie years, it's like this search for purpose, what's life all about?
Yeah.
And but I did have a few different kind of ideas, and I checked them with the teenage grandkids, and they all agreed that finding purpose is something also that young people, are talking about. So it's for everybody.
Yeah.
And then I included in it Finding Purpose, the song of my life, because of the reference to the German book.
You know,
And
a lot of
yeah.
singers that I work with as a vocal coach, especially the younger generation, they all are struggling with exactly that issue of what's my purpose. And I'm so thankful that you're sharing, because you were in this, you started out on the same search. It's not like you knew it, but you started to find it. You said that you like creating beautiful things. Tell me about that, about your personal taste.
Yeah. Well, over the years, not only in raising 5 daughters and, running a household, we did many things together as a family with music, and really the underlying um, factor in my life ever since I was a teenager, I believe. And I probably got some of it from my mom because she always had a pretty home. And so, and I grew up like in grade school and high school. My favorite was art classes.
Yeah.
I didn't care about math or science. I wanted art classes. And so between music and art, that's really been the most important thing for me my whole life. And so that was I felt like, okay, so if I have the title Finding Purpose, then I need to have the music that goes with it, the colors, the design, and which photographs should we use.
Yeah. Right. And tell me more about the issue of the whole topic of pictures and photographs. You have a whole past connected to taking pictures. And so just why don't you just talk about, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
how did it come across
Yeah,
how did it happen that you had all these photos?
yeah. Well, people who are listening right now, if they're not following me on Instagram, they're not aware of the hundreds of photos that I'm posting that all go
Thousands.
along with the story. And literally, for every page in this book that I wrote in German, there's photographs of the story.
Yeah.
So, but growing up, because so my love was art. At some point, I got like thinking, well, instead of like painting or drawing from someone else's photographs, which I did a lot in high school, like pencil sketches and oil paintings, that I should have my own photographs and then paint from that.
Oh, yeah.
And so as a graduation present, I was 17 from high school in California. I asked my dad for a camera. And up until that point, I was planning on going to art college in Oakland. And once I started with the camera, that was it. That's all I wanted to do.
Sure.
And he helped me set up a dark room out in our family room. And so I took a class, even though I had graduated from high school, I took a summer class on black and white photography. And then I was like hooked forever. Because it was so much fun developing the film, learning to do prints. It is art, but yeah, I just loved the whole process. And later I took art classes in a junior college for not art, but color photography. And yeah, so that was my foundation. And everywhere I went was with a camera.
Right. So that's also a nice side note. If you are interested in more of Kristine van Dooren's story and are listening to her podcast, definitely follow her on Instagram so you can see all the pictures, because you just basically documented our whole life. And I know you have even pictures, of the hippie days when I was still a small baby. And yeah, it's fun. What was it like for you to venture out and to be basically the center of attraction and talking about your own life? I mean, I would think that must have taken some kind of courage, maybe, because I know in the past you always supported Dad, who was a preacher and a pastor eventually, and also supported myself and all of our sisters doing music and dance and everything. And you would kind of like always focus on pushing us, yeah, and supporting us. And now all of a sudden, it's you with your own voice. What's that
Oh,
like for you? What has it been like?
Well, first I realized that if I'm going to be telling the story, I need to like write it all down. So it was basically continuing in this mode that I've kind of learned over the years. I do a lot of writing and working on the computer, and so I kind of set myself like, okay, I'm writing the book now in English. Each episode is kind of like a short chapter.
Yeah.
And but talking about it, when I started practicing like speaking it, and then when I started recording in Debbie's studio, I mean, it was pretty scary. And I think I'm probably like everybody, you don't like the sound of your own voice.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing that your daughter said to me, like, do a podcast. And I'm like, oh, I hate the sound of my voice,
Oh.
especially since I've gotten older.
Mm-hmm.
And but I just, like I said, I've never had a relationship with a microphone. And I always loved watching my daughters sing, and they, the microphone is like, connected to your
Yeah.
hand.
But I like the sound of your voice because it tells the story, and it tells the age, and it tells the experience. And it to me, there's not one voice like the other, so you can recognize a human being by their voice. It's incredible. And I think, yeah, it's always kind of strange to hear your own voice. And I think most of us don't like to hear ourselves, audibly speaking, but it's different for the listener. I mean, of course, it's always a matter of taste too, but to me, like when I'm listening to your story, it's you're hearing the person, you're hearing the story behind it, and it's real instead of somebody else telling the story.
Just to that point, what has really been fun, I mean, like really, really fun, is because I've lived in Germany since 1975, and then in Berlin before that.
Yeah.
And my whole concentration in life in speaking has been the German language, which I'm still not perfect at. But and of course, then my book coming out in German and talking to people about my story in German. And this opportunity to me has been like the most coolest and fun adventure to speak English.
Right.
And the good thing though that's helped me is I've listened to a lot of speakers and conversations on YouTube over many years. So I've tried to keep up with American conversation in English. But that gives me a security. If I was trying to do it in German, I would have so many, hang-ups about it.
But I think that's also special, I mean, we live in Germany. You've been here now for, I don't know, was it like almost 50 years or 40 years or something? And
50.
It's nice that through this podcast that you have the chance in your life to speak your mother tongue and your soul language. And I'm really happy for you. Just, in closing for this first episode, and then, in the following episodes, we'll get to know you even more personal. What you, in the beginning, when we started this talk, you said, oh, this is going to make you cry, and you were choking up. What is why? What is it that causes you to get choked up?
I think two things. The main thing is the reason that I live in Germany as an American is from the time that my husband, Thomas, your dad's, and from the time that we became Christians, we knew, and this was in California, we knew that we would come back to Germany. And my greatest desire is to share the truth of the Lord, of Jesus as my savior. That is the reason why I came to Germany, and that's why the reason I stayed in Germany.
Wow.
So that is always, and so now that I have this opportunity in my own language and to talk to all different types of people around the world, basically, that is also, I feel like it's fulfilling.
Nice.
Even more so than trying to express it in German.
Yeah. And for those who don't speak such good English, the book, it's, you have to kind of go looking for it, but you can still find it online and find used versions to order for yourself and read it in German. And maybe one day we'll translate the podcast and do titles or something.
I'll show you in the next session that we do. I'm planning on at some point bringing out, the episodes that I've written in book form.
Okay. So then I want to just say thank you so much. First of all, to our listeners, thank you for taking time. And thank you, Mom. Thank you, Kristine van Dooren, for putting all the effort into making this podcast. And I look forward to the next episode to get to know you even more. And you can be sure to follow Kristine van Dooren on her Instagram page and to listen to the podcast, Finding Purpose. And also watch out for YouTube. There will also be more to come in the future increasingly. And God bless you and see you soon.
Bye for now.
Bye.